Let's talk about soft skills, or I would call it real world skills, because soft skills also kind of demean its value. Many people think when you say soft skills, these are optional, but I don't think these are optional. So, what people actually think is that you need a lot of technical skills. I don't know, like 75% of technical skills, some domain knowledge in the domain you are working with could be travel industry or customer services and so on, and some sort of soft skills, and also understanding memes. But what it actually is, it's a little bit different, because I believe, this is my personal perspective, of course, you need at least a lot more soft skills, so called, in your profile than you think. You need technical skills, also domain knowledge, but a large portion, maybe the same equivalent amount you have as this technical skills. You need that. Why? Because you can find people with skills anywhere. And also, you can teach people technical skills. If I need a Java engineer, I can ask someone to do some projects and I can hire them. But it's very hard to find attitudes, because those are, you grow up with them and you build your attitudes and your personality throughout your life. Since you are born, you are building your life, your personality, and your traits, and you can't learn them overnight. So, if you prepare for interviews and so they will ask what are my weaknesses and strengths, so I should tell these answers. But trust me, doing interviews for ages, I know when someone is giving a practiced sentence like, my weakness is attention to detail, which is really not a weakness. So these kind of things we can detect. We called it some detectors. I can't say it out loud. I know when somebody is lying in on an interview. So these type of things that I mentioned, you grow up with, you build your career, and also especially your profile, your personality around how you are grown up with it. You can't learn it overnight. That's why it's very important. These are not soft skills, I call them transferable skills. You have to have them, because anybody can learn technical stuff. Proved. I can give any examples, like a lot of examples. Anybody can learn programming. Anybody can learn about data science or whatever you are doing, but it will be very hard to learn about these skills. I think these are the important transferable skills you should have. First of all, communication skills. Some people think communication skills means that you know English, which is wrong. What if you are working in Germany, which English is not really used a lot? Then you need to know German, which is a very hard language to learn. English is like, like nursery if you think of compare it to German language, which is very difficult to learn. But that's why I mentioned communication skills does not mean you know English or any language. It's not a skill. Communication skills mean you can express your idea to someone else in a simple term, even when they have no idea about that domain. So when we go or when we conduct interviews, we ask certain type of questions. I also didn't want to show everything, but something went wrong. So now you see all the points, but stay with me. We are talking about communication skills. When we go for an interviews, when we interview people, we ask some questions like, explain a database index to your grandmother. How would you explain that? So this is a very tricky question. So when I ask someone to explain someone to their grandmother or a 5-year-old, which means they need to know how to explain complex things. I mean, database index is not a complex thing, but somewhat complex thing to a certain someone, in this case a grandmother, in very simple terms using real life examples. So that shows how well they know how to explain things, how well they have their communication skills sorted out. That's what I mean by communication skills. Communication skills does not mean you have perfect English. It doesn't matter if you do certain mistakes, because we, at least I'm Sri Lankan, I didn't grow up in a household which speaks English. I learned it. And of course, I'm not a native speaker and I will make definitely a lot of mistakes. It's fine, because communication is not about how well you speak, it's about how well you explain someone something that they don't know about. It's very important when you work in a team, very important if you work with different, let's say, customers, could be different stakeholders, you need to explain certain things. I work with project managers who are not really technically, let's say, in depth, they don't have in-depth knowledge. And also I work with data scientists, which they have a certain set of skills, like good machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on. And we need to build data pipelines on cloud to cater their solutions. And I need to know how they actually process certain things. Monitoring, like for example, pipeline monitoring means something else to them and something else to me. I work with students as well, so they have a completely different understanding about technologies. It's very hard sometimes to bring everybody into the same page. And at least in my team, there is no native English speaker. We have people from a lot of countries. So nobody is actually perfect in English, but we still need to make sure that we explain our ideas clearly in a way that they can understand. So communication skills mean that, not how well you actually know English. So just to clarify. So you need to have verbal skills. That means you know how to explain things when you are asked to in a public setting, could be in this kind of case or a team meeting or anywhere. And you need to understand, you have to have the ability to understand when somebody is saying something and maybe comprehend and then also reply back, not just hearing, but rather listening. And also very well written skills. So you need to be able to write certain things, could be documentation, could be blogs, all sorts of things, and also need to be able to understand what's written. Maybe your team member wrote a documentation about how to do a certain task. You need to be able to read it and understand. Same way, you have to write it to someone that have no idea what you're talking about, but when they read your document, they should be able to understand it. So how to improve that? For written one, that's why I highly recommend writing blogs and also reading. So there is a really nice platform called Medium. Sign up for that if you don't know that. And there are a lot of places you can learn. Could be Reddit or could be anywhere. Could be even documentation for frameworks. Read it and understand. If you have certain things to share, write a blog. That will immensely increase your written skills. Trust me, you can start one, because you might think, I don't know what to write. I don't have anything to write. I don't know, I'm a normal person. Do you know what my first blog post is about? It's an answer to a past paper in my university to draw an ER diagram. So that was a past paper question. So I solved the question, of course. And then I thought, you know what will be fun? Let me write it in an article. That's how my blog started. Nothing fancy. And if you ever go to my blog, you read, all the first articles are some answers to these kind of questions, like past paper questions. And that's how I got into writing. And I never stopped since. I still do write blog posts. And it's fun for me. And maybe in the beginning, it takes me like days or weeks to write a simple article. But now I can write in a one sitting like an entire article, because I know how to do certain things. And I use grammar, spell checks, and so on. So the first way you can improve your communication skills in written format is to write and read. So find a platform you can do that. How to do verbal, I don't know, communication skills? It's very tough, because most of, at least what I know, we don't speak English at home. I focus on English, yes, because most of the international companies do speak in English, and English is one of the 6 international languages that are spread across the entire world, thanks to British people. So we need to know English at a certain point, but it doesn't mean English is the only language that we need to know. If you know French or Spanish, it's also good. But let's be honest, English is important if you are going to work for in an international company. How can you improve? Of course, you have to speak, otherwise it won't work. So In a normal setting, if you try to speak with your friends in English, they will mock you for sure. That's why we have friends. But if you really need to improve your speaking, you can talk alone. Some people might find it a mental disease, but you can go for certain communities such as Toastmasters or Gavel clubs. I know Slit has one, Toastmasters, but I don't know if students can join. Gavel clubs, there are different universities or in your area, try to find one, go there. They have a really nice community. I also went there, and really improves not your English, your communication skills, how you explain certain things to people in a simple way. And also you need to also practice hearing people, so watch, I don't know, documentaries and so on. That's always there. So communication skills, very, very important. I always rate it as the highest skill that you should have. And that's a skill that you should have on you, not on your CV, because it's very hard to measure someone's communication skills from a CV, but we should have it. And also analytical reasoning. That means you base your decisions on data, not on your emotions or any biasnesses. So for example, we really need critical thinking and also logical thinking in our industry, and also fact-based decision making, which means you always look for the facts before you make a decision. If you want to find the best framework to do something, you do a research, you try it out, and you know how hard it is or fast it is to learn, then you decide. It's not, Praneeth said that Flutter is better, so that's why I'm learning Flutter. No, don't do that. Try to find your requirement and see if it matches whatever the framework you're going to try, then do it. Same way, in a job, it's very easy to be biased with people or decisions. For example, let's say my team wants to try something in Java, but I like Python, but it doesn't mean that I should always say, tell the team, all the engineers under me, hey, we should do Python, not Java. It's very unfair for me. But if I see that we can do something easily and fast in Java, I should do it. That's what we call fact-based decision making. So people should have it. It's very hard. I don't know how to actually improve it. But one thing I can think of could be, I don't know, playing chess. That's one. And I had an entire video on how to improve your logical thinking. You can also check. I also don't remember what I said there. So these skills are very important. And the other one is project management. Project management, I'm not focusing on the project management job, but rather managing any type of project. Any type of project, including your life. Because life is also a project, right? We need to be able to have our head straight, think clearly, focus on certain things and get things done. It's very important to have time management and prioritization. I think that's also one of the questions or in the quiz I saw is really nice, because this is true. Because as undergraduates, that's when you will have the most time as possible in your life. When you do a job, the time that you will have for your life and your personal things will be less. And especially if you want to really focus on career growth, that will be very hard. And of course, in your life, you go to certain level, you have certain commitments, then it also will be very hard to find time to do certain things. That's why you need to have proper time management and prioritization of times. So one thing I heavily use is this method called Eisenhower matrix. So it creates a kind of a grid and separates your tasks into urgent and importance. So if it's really urgent and if it really adds a lot of value, then you should immediately do it. If it's really urgent and if it's not really adds a lot of value, you ask someone else to do it. And if it adds a lot of value, but maybe not really urgent, you put an appointment because it's really important, but I don't have to do it now, but maybe next month I put a calendar appointment. I need to do this on this day. And if it's not really important and also doesn't really add value, just discard it. This is very important because we sometimes get hung up with a lot of things that we need to do, which is not urgent, no time pressure, and also it does not really add a lot of value. Just don't do it. Just forget about it. Be happy, because otherwise it will stress you a lot. Try to find what actually ticks you If you find yourself doing certain things which is not valuable to you, don't do it. Doesn't matter. So that's why this project management skills comes really handy. How do you get this skill? Only by doing projects. Could be any type of project. Could be your university project. Take a leadership of a team or leadership of a certain task. Do this kind of volunteering work or anything. Even like cleaning your house. It's a project. You need to paint. You need to buy certain things. I don't know what not. Everything is a project if you really think about it. And try to do proper time management and prioritization of this work. I think this will be really helpful if you want to go in this career. And this is also very important, which is the skill to learn, unlearn, and relearn. What do I mean? I mean, learn is obvious, right? If you need to learn something, if you need to do certain thing that you don't have the skills, you have to learn certain thing. For example, I wanted to make a platform where people want to share books, and I didn't know how to make mobile apps. So I learned Flutter slowly, but I did. And then I made an app. Maybe now, let's say we need to learn how to make websites. So I have to learn a framework. I don't have option. So I have to learn it. So these things we call learning. You have a goal that you don't have the skills, so you have to learn it, or you ask someone else to do it, but ideally you learn something. The most important part is unlearning. Unlearning is when you think you know something, with the knowledge is so outdated, but you still believe that's the truth. In that case, you have to unlearn certain things. For example, one thing could be project management is boring. Or data science is all about machine learning. Maybe you might think, maybe you heard it, maybe for years you believed it, but if you realize this is not the case anymore, you have to unlearn that fact and then learn the new things. This is very important in technology. It could be in your life or when you work in a company. This is very important. So there are certain things you have to forget, unlearn. Could be about doing certain things. For example, I used to write code. When I was in Sri Lanka, I wrote code in C++, which is tough, you know. When I came here, I switched to Python. And I started writing Python code in C++ format, which was very bad. Because I thought the correct way to write code is how I wrote C++, which is correct for C++, but not for Python. Python has a different way of writing code. So no, I'm not talking about the coding standards, okay? But the style, how to create classes, how to create dependency injections, and so on. So these kind of things I had to unlearn and also learn on my Python skills. The final thing is relearn. Relearn means simply you keep on learning. Maybe you think you know, but you keep on updating your knowledge. Maybe there's for example, let's say a new framework coming for web framework, and you also are a web developer, or you really want to be a web developer, and you go there and then read out and then see what it actually do. Maybe it's important to you. Maybe it will be helpful in your next project. You try to learn it, or you at least be aware this is there. Otherwise, you might think that jQuery is still a thing because it's very old and I don't think people should use it. But if you never learn new things, you might still use that old technologies. That's why many people still learn PHP. I know it's a controversial topic, but there are a lot of good. I'm not a big advocate of, let's say, web technologies because I don't know that domain. I was never a front-end engineer. I always worked in the back end. But I still know what things come, like the new frameworks for JavaScript or TypeScript or whatever they come, because I should be able to easily learn if the requirement comes. But if I still believe, no, PHP is the way to go, probably I haven't learned anything. I'm not saying PHP is bad, but you know. Anyway, so the goal is that you learn, keep on learning, keep on unlearning, and keep on relearning. You have to be up to date and very let's say open for new things. And the final one is conflict resolution. This is also a personal skills that you have to gain. Otherwise, it will be very hard for you to work in a team or in a company. I don't have any certain tips to give that. You have to go into these situations and learn. There are a lot of ways to do this. There are different theories about this, a lot of psychology going on, but you have to go through it. Otherwise, you will never know. Okay, so then the last thing I want to say, don't worry. It takes time. It takes a lot of time until you actually excel. So don't pressure yourself. Take your time. As long as you learn something every day, you are going in the right direction. I think some wise person said, I don't know, I remember the name, but they said, be better than how you were yesterday. So always be better than how you were yesterday. So do something good that you didn't do yesterday. So it will keep on increasing. If you do 1% better, it will be 36 or 7% better, times better in a year. So don't underestimate the power of small improvements. So with that being said, I wish you really, honestly, wholeheartedly, good luck in your future endeavors. I think this was helpful. If not, feel free to also complain. That's fine. I would also like to learn. If it did, I'm also happy because that was the goal anyway.